Right now, you are doing something no other species on Earth can do. You are following a chain of abstract symbols and converting them into ideas, emotions, and images inside your mind. You call this language. You do it so automatically that it feels like breathing. But there was a time, a long, almost incomprehensibly long time, when none of this existed. Before the first word was ever spoken, your ancestors were already here. They were hunting. They were grieving. They were falling in love. They were afraid of the dark. They were doing everything you do, but without a single word to explain any of it. So what did they actually do? How did they think? How did they plan, argue, mourn, and teach their children? Without language? The answer is stranger and more beautiful than you probably expect. Start with a number, 200,000. That is roughly how many years anatomically modern humans, your direct ancestors, have existed on this planet. But complex spoken language, the kind with grammar and syntax and sentences, likely only emerged somewhere between 50,000 and 100,000 years ago. Maybe later. The timeline is still hotly debated. That means there is a gap of at least 100,000 years, possibly much longer, during which human beings who looked exactly like you walked the earth, made tools, buried their dead, and somehow organized their entire lives without language as we know it. 100,000 years of silence. Now, silence is the wrong word. Your ancestors weren't mute. They made sounds. Researchers believe early humans communicated using a rich mix of vocalizations, grunts, clicks, and calls. Not entirely unlike what you hear from great apes today. But those sounds lacked the recursive, combinatorial power that makes human language unique. They couldn't say the lion that was at the river yesterday is coming back tomorrow. They could only signal, danger, now, run. So how much can you actually communicate without grammar? More than you think. Far more. Think about the last time you watched someone across a crowded room and instantly knew they were angry, even though you couldn't hear a word they were saying. Think about how a dog can read your mood before you've spoken. Think about how a mother and infant communicate entire emotional worlds through eye contact, touch, and timing. Before the baby has a single word. Your body was built to communicate long before your mouth was. And for most of human history, that body-based system was everything. The anthropologist Robin Dunbar, famous for his work on social group sizes in primates, has argued that early human bonding was achieved largely through grooming, physical touch, the long, slow ritual of picking through someone's hair. It sounds trivial until you realize that in primate groups, grooming is the primary currency of trust and alliance. It is how coalitions form. It is how hierarchies are maintained. It is how friendships are built and debts are settled. Without language, your ancestors may have spent hours every day physically touching one another as their core form of social communication. You still do this. You just don't call it grooming. You call it a hug, a handshake, a pat on the back, a hand on a shoulder when someone cries. The touch came first. The word came much later. But there was another pre-language communication system running alongside touch, and it may be even older. Music, or more precisely, rhythm. The musicologist Tecumseh Fitch has argued that rhythmic vocalization, communal chanting, synchronized movement, coordinated breathing was one of the earliest forms of group bonding in human ancestors. Before words, there was beat. Before sentences, there was song. When a group of early humans sat together and began to hum or clap or drum in unison, their nervous systems synchronized. Their heartbeats slowed together. Their stress hormones dropped. Something that felt like trust and something that felt like belonging moved through the group without a single intelligible word being spoken. You still feel this at concerts. You still feel it in prayer. You still feel it when you and someone you love are breathing in the same room at the same pace, without talking. Rhythm was the first language, and it was speaking to parts of you that words still can't reach. But how did they plan? This is the question that keeps cognitive scientists up at night. Because planning, especially long horizon planning, anticipating a future event and preparing for it today, seems to require language. You need to be able to hold an imagined future in your mind and talk about it, right? Maybe not. Researcher Thomas Suddendorf, who studies what he calls mental time travel, has found evidence that even non-language using animals can demonstrate basic future-oriented behavior. Scrub jays hide food they won't eat for days. Chimpanzees select tools the night before they'll need them. Your ancestors with brains.